It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. We begin with politics, as the African Democratic Congress, ADC, has protested the arrest and detention of former governor of Sokoto State, Senator Aminu Waziru Tambuwal. EFCC on Monday interrogated the former Sokoto State Governor Aminu Tambuwal, a member of the coalition, over an alleged fraudulent cash withdrawal transaction amounting to 189 billion naira. Tambuwal, who governed Sokoto State from 2015 to 2023, arrived at the EFCC headquarters in Abuja around 11:30 a.m. and was taken in for questioning by investigators. A senior EFCC source who spoke on condition of anonymity said the former governor is facing questions over suspicious transactions during his tenure involving alleged unauthorized withdrawals of public funds. The withdrawals were suspected to be in violation of the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act of 2022, but ADC has issued a stern warning to the EFCC, accusing the anti-graft agency of acting as a political weapon and engaging in selective investigation targeting opposition figures. Now to security, as there is a fresh round of tension in Yelwata community in Benue State after gunmen attacked the area in the early hours of Monday, killing more than 3 people. Following the attack, protesters blocked the Makurdi-Lafia highway, demanding the withdrawal of soldiers from the area, saying their presence has failed to stop repeated attacks. Arise News correspondent Theophilus Tav reports.
This latest assault comes less than 2 months after the deadly Yelwata attack that left hundreds dead, thousands displaced, and the community living in constant fear. The renewed killing sparked a fierce protest by residents who barricaded the Makurdi-Lafia Federal Highway, halting traffic for hours.
Government officials, other security agencies that were here, talked to them, we persuade them. As you can see, the road was clear.
In a display of grief and defiance, protesters laid the victims' bodies across the road, declaring that no vehicle would pass until soldiers in the area were sent back to the barracks, accusing the military of failing in its duty to protect them.
You can see we have the military as our covering here, but the covering is negative. So that's why we are protesting they should leave, so that the trustworthy security should work with us, because they are no longer trustworthy. So that is our grievances, to cut everything short.
We are protesting because this incident has been occurring since 14 years now. But at the beginning of this crisis, they brought soldiers to us. So we were thinking the issue will go down. Even today, that people went at the house, beside the houses, not as if it is in the farm. Oh, they were now killed this morning. That was why we were angry, and then we protested for it. But the one we saw here are 8 persons that were killed. 6 were taken to the hospital.
Residents allege that the attackers crossed over from neighboring Nasarawa State to carry out the assaults.
We have the neighboring houses here closely, the Nasarawa State government. They were suspecting them, because the moment they come here, before we know, we'll see them going back.
It was a painstaking exercise, collaboration, synergizing with government officials and other security agencies to ensure that the road, the federal highway from Makurdi to Lafia, that have been blocked for over 8 hours. As you can see, it was women that were protesting. We cannot use force, to disperse them.
For many in Yelwata, each gunshot is a haunting reminder of loved ones lost and homes abandoned. As the sun sets over the quiet farmlands, fear lingers, and the residents say their only wish is to sleep through the night without waking to gunfire. Theophilus Tav, Arise News.
Now on to other news, as the World Bank yesterday announced the approval of $300 million, that's about 462 billion naira, for internally displaced persons and their host communities in the northern part of Nigeria under the Solutions for the Internally Displaced and Host Communities Project, SOLID. A statement from the bank stressed that the new initiative will enhance access to essential services and economic opportunities for IDPs and host communities in selected local government areas in the troubled region. The IDP crisis in northern Nigeria is one of the most pressing humanitarian challenges in the country, driven largely by a combination of armed conflict, banditry, and communal clashes, with the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast serving as the single largest trigger. For more than a decade, towns and villages in many states in the northern region have suffered repeated attacks, forcing millions to abandon their homes in search of safety. In the northwest, rising bandit violence, kidnappings and cattle rustling have displaced thousands more, while intermittent farmer-herder clashes in the Middle Belt have added to the numbers. Devastating numbers, and just unfortunate to see the plight, the humanitarian crisis, Rufai, that's currently brewing and continues to fester in some regions of Nigeria.
And I'll tie this project, laudable for IDPs, for over 400 billion. I just hope it's going to be spent properly. I just hope we are going to have a cost-benefit analysis of how the money is spent for every individual that's going to get it. But why do we have IDPs in the first place? Reflection of failure across board. At a point in this country, if my memory serves me right, when you talk about internally displaced people and they had camps, it used to be the Liberians that were fleeing the war. They had some of their camps in parts of Ogun State. Never did we ever think that Nigerians were going to be internally displaced in their own countries. Yes, from time to time we could have IDP camps because of flooding and crisis, one of which I visited when there was a flooding around Ughelli area, and I think in early 2010, or thereabouts, between 2010 and 2012, if my memory serves me right. But never did we think that due to crisis and insecurity. So rather than getting money to be able to upgrade the lives of the IDP, when are we going to think of the long walk at bringing to justice those societies affected and allowing those people truly go back home and go back to their communities without being cleansed out of their communities? And I use those words deliberately because it's a very sad one. People are leaving their communities. Communities are changing. The government tries its best. You know, when they do well, I'll give kudos to them. Yesterday, we saw the trial of those in the Owo massacre, those fingered in the Owo massacre. And kudos to the DSS on their job as regards that. And some other things they have done. But like I said before, when this Yelwata happened, as long as we don't solve the problems on ground, I hate to use my word, but it will happen again. Increasingly, they have talked about this onslaught coming in from people out of Nasarawa. What have we done to be able to prevent this? I thought the police underlined this. It was only after the president visited weeks after. And the president said, IG, didn't you people arrest anybody? Then quickly the police paraded some people. So I thought the police arrested some people. Where are we without investigation? This is insecurity that we spend billions of USD on. I know the security expert will say no matter what you spend is not still enough. But the question we should ask ourselves this morning is that what happened to Nigeria? Nigeria didn't used to be like this before. This was the same Nigeria people enjoyed road trips. People will leave from Ife and go and drive to Jos. But today, you are scared. I don't want to know the reason for this problem. But the people of Benue and Yelwata are bleeding. Question is, what can we do? I'll suggest a multi-pronged approach. 1, economic empowerment. 2, collaboration among various groups, be it ethnic, be it ideological groups. 3, rehabilitation of people. 4, peace building and justice. People must be seeing that there's justice in society. This killing, for instance, why are the people protesting against security forces? Because they say despite the security forces being there, we didn't see a resolution. The same security forces that Nigerians used to appreciate so much. I mean, we saw how the Mitiseni riots were quelled by security forces. We saw how when some Chadians came in here, they were chased back into Chad. So what happened to our security forces over the years? The same security forces that got a lot of honor. But why will all of this not continue? When you are having malnutrition in Nigeria, health outcomes are poor, education outcomes are poor, sociological outcomes are poor. And all of this now segues to politics. The EFCC, I'm not saying the EFCC does not have a right to go after people if they have their facts, and they should investigate. On that, I support the EFCC. But the point people are also making, why is it that it is selective? All of a sudden, the ADC emerged. Persons, Yelwata, Tambuwal, are linked to it. EFCC is calling them in. Is it that there are no other people out there that have cases to answer with the EFCC? Is it that every other person is clean? So when you look at it, there's a slant of political narrative to it. And that's why we call on the EFCC, please be fair. We are not saying don't do your work. Do your work. If you find something against Tambuwal that he's done, do your work, charge him to court. I will support you on that.
Okay, first, let me deal with the issue of the people of Yelwata in Benue State. You will recall that in June, specifically June 13, 2025, there was an attack on that same community. About 200 persons died. Many others were displaced. Houses were disrupted. Economic community activity within that whole area was disrupted. And now we hear again that the terrorists, the insurgents, have attacked the community again. And you have the local residents, particularly women, coming out to say, well, please, we want now to go to Makodi because we're no longer safe in this environment. The people of Yelwata, of course, have every reason to protest and to call on government. Section 33 of the Nigerian Constitution guarantees the right to life. No citizen in this country called Nigeria should be subjected to the abbreviation of their right to life, not even the abbreviation of the right to the dignity of the human person, as stated in Section 34 of the same Constitution. But the problem that we have is that people have become refugees in their own country. They've become internally displaced persons. And what that speaks to is the failure of government to fulfill its obligations, we say so, ad infinitum, Section 14 sub 2 of the 1999 Constitution, which says that the responsibility of government is to ensure the security and welfare of the people. Concerned Nigerians, including Mrs. Remi Tinubu, the First Lady of Nigeria, had gone to Yelwata to commiserate with the people. I think she donated ₦1 billion. But that's not how the problem can be solved. The only way the problem can be solved is for the institutions of state to function and be efficient and be effective. Is it any surprise that the people of Yelwata, the women of Yelwata, are now saying that in fact they want the soldiers who are stationed in the area to be removed? That's their own way of saying, look, these soldiers that you have brought here, they are not effective. The insurgents will come and they will overwhelm them and attack us. The other time, 200 people plus died. This time around, 3 persons have died. When will the people of Yelwata and the people of Benue and the people of the entire Middle East have peace? In other words, this is a major responsibility for the Nigerian government to ensure that whether it's in the Middle Belt or in the Northeast or the Northwest or anywhere else in any part of Nigeria, people can sleep peacefully and be sure that they will wake up the following day without being attacked by elements who are criminals who call themselves citizens. Now, as for the World Bank says is donating $300 million under a project to be known as SOLID. The objective of the SOLID program is to take care of the IDPs and then also make sure that they are self-reliant. Now, this is the World Bank coming in and saying, you know, we're going to take care of internally displaced persons in Nigeria. Look, nobody, no citizen should be internally displaced. So the two topics, the first topic we started with is related to the second one. Every Nigerian should be able to live freely in this environment. And that's, again, a challenge for the Nigerian government to make sure that Nigerians are not refugees in their own country. Now, World Bank is saying, oh, we will rehabilitate your people. 7.4 million of them are likely to benefit in the long term. You know, long-term project, they say it is. Sustainable, they say it is. But what is the Nigerian government itself doing? At a time when you have principal officers of government flaunting wealth, what do they call it? Housewarming. One minister just did housewarming that has been disturbing everybody on the pages of social media. Some others go about in, big vehicles. They live ostentatiously. They commit the crime of conspicuous consumption. And yet there are people in this country who are living in IDPs. Many of our lawmakers, they say they are doing constituency projects. These they are constituency projects. They don't take them to these internally displaced persons camps. But I think the basic logic is that nobody should be internally displaced. No citizen should be a refugee in this country. While some other people in the capitals of the country live large and behave as if their mission in life is to consume in a conspicuous manner. Now, as to the issue of the EFCC going after members of the APC, of the ADC, as it is alleged, the spokesperson of the ADC says their members are being targeted and all of that. Well, the irony here is that this is not new. When the ACN, CPC, when they were in the opposition, they used to complain that government was going after their members. After that time, okay, the PDP also complained that the APC was going after their members. Now is the ADC, the emergent coalition of opposition politicians, saying APC is going after our members. Now, the delicate thing here is this. One, if you do the crime, you do the time. So the institution, the EFCC, must just ensure that it's not an institution used by anybody for political reasons to witch hunt anybody. And whoever is fingered, sanctioned, cannot hide under the umbrella of, oh, I'm being victimized because I belong to the opposition. Due process must be followed. The rights of the persons to fair hearing under sections 35 and 36 must be duly respected. I think what is important in the final analysis is for us to defend, to protect the integrity of our institutions. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu must personally pay attention to this so that what he himself resisted in the past, what he fought in the past, will not be said of him, that he too is using the institutions of state to intimidate, harass, and blackmail persons just because they don't belong to the same political orientation at the moment with him. I make the point at the moment, advisedly, because tomorrow the same politicians can rearrange, they can reposition, and then all of this will vanish. But the integrity of institutions is very important. And those who are in charge of those institutions must be above board, like Caesar's wife, and ensure that they do not become instruments in the hands of political manipulators.
Absolutely. There's so much to be said this morning, but I think for me, I want to lead with what I feel is becoming a culture, which is the culture of treating symptoms without curing the root cause, is a culture of taking paracetamol, which as much as it may remove the headache or it might reduce the fever, it doesn't deal with the virus. It doesn't heal the real issue that is creating the symptoms, that is manifesting itself as symptoms. And this is what we're seeing happening in Benue State, for example, is that we gloss over certain issues and we try to handle them on the surface level, but they are clearly deeply rooted issues that are not being resolved. Now, it's now becoming even more challenging to understand what those deep-rooted issues are and what the resolution is, because the different conversations coming out continue to move in opposing directions. Because in some instances, there's arguments around genocide. Some instances, it's communal clash. And then, of course, we cannot eliminate the fact that there are opportunists who work in the realm of knowing that there's a lapse or a vacuum that has been created by the fact that the fundamental root causes are not being addressed. We condole with the people of Yelwata who are having to relive the trauma that they experienced barely 2 months ago when they lost over 200 members of their community, and now they've lost more members of their community. How does a community heal from this? How do they develop? How do they move on? And this is what takes us to the issue of IDPs. When we ask ourselves, again, are we dealing with the fundamental root causes that are creating a systemic culture of IDP camps, internally displaced people who have no hope and do not see any near chance of relocating or being resettled to any formal home? Now, for me, when I heard the news about the World Bank, it highlighted one or two major issues. The first major issue was the fact that we have not been able to fill the vacuum that has been left by USAID. We cannot neglect that as much as USAID is hugely criticized from a political perspective, from a humanitarian perspective, the work was getting done. And that vacuum is not being felt just in Nigeria, it's being felt generally in the global south. And yes, the government came in to try and patch a few lapses in the healthcare with some intervention funds. However, it's now clear that those intervention funds are insufficient, especially when you look at the scale of the work that USAID was doing in states like Borno, for example. The World Food Programme is saying that the funding and the support, the resources that have been going to these areas have decreased by about 60% since USAID pulled out. Now, we can't blame USAID because that's American taxpayers' money. We now ask ourselves, what is our own taxpayers' money doing? Yes, we commend the World Bank who are coming to our rescue, but this continues to propagate this developmental theory that they call the dependency syndrome, where we have crisis and we run back to our feeding bottle to wait for assistance from outsiders. Where are the critical interventions that we are supposed to have put in place since Donald Trump came into office at the beginning of this year up until now, knowing very well the level of crises we have in different parts of the countries? Why can we not step in? Why are we always looking for foreign aid to come and patch? Because like Dr. Abati highlighted, if we say that we can't afford it, why is it that our politicians are able to live such luxurious lives? Why is the disparity between the haves and the have-nots so jarring and it continues to grow by the day? It means the money is available, but the priorities are wrong. So that's on one breath. Now, in the other breath, I have to also give credit to the Senate, who have, this particular Senate, have finally taken upon themselves to domesticate the Kampala Convention. Now, Nigeria ratified the Kampala Convention in 2012, I believe, and this is all about ensuring that IDPs have rights. It makes some of their rights to resettlement, their rights to proper care and support legally enforceable. So this scaled through to the third reading in the Senate in July and is now waiting for presidential assent, which I'm sure will take place when Senate resumes. What will this do? This will allow us to be able to constitutionalize and create a national framework for IDPs in Nigeria, and hopefully this will get adequate funding and we'll be able to ensure that these people do not become permanently internally displaced but can be resettled to a permanent location. Now, as for EFCC, as I round up, and the ADC and so forth. Yes, it is unfortunate that there's this culture again of catch and release, that if you are found wanting, you negotiate and you strike 1 or 2 deals and your folder is put in a shelf. But this is what the politicians forget. Your folder is only put in a shelf. It's not destroyed. So at any moment, because you have gone against the astutes of the law to put it aside and shelve it, the law can still catch up to you at any moment. And yes, it will be weaponized, because when you were doing those backdoor deals to shelve those deals, was it also not a form of doing things in an underhanded way? So they say those who live by the sword die by the sword. So unfortunately, no sympathy from me. But again, EFCC should not be weaponized.